So what has been the reaction of the audience in India to your choreography, I guess specifically on So You Think You Can Dance?
Well, I can only say good stuff because I haven't received any hate mail, which is good. I've from what I hear from my publicists and what I hear from people that are my friends and fans on Facebook and other means, everything seems to be very positive. A lot of people are applauding that I'm taking I'm taking a part of India to the States and representing it in a way that people are interested in. It's putting India on the map in a small way to a very, very small demographic here where people didn't know what Bollywood was. And what's great about the show is that it's been consistent for ever since, with Bollywood dancing. It's been consistent since season 4. As I mentioned, we're now in season 9. And there's no hints about this form being taken out. There's no hints about people not liking it. If anything, there's a demand. I've been on the show. I'm not on every week when the show's in season, but I'm definitely on more than I used to be. And the show airs in India, as you know, and I just had positive feedback. I think my most treasured compliment was Saroj Khan, who saw my work, and she said that I've done a good job. And then, of course, Madhuri Dixit, has, I guess she used to watch the show when she was in Denver, says that she knows of me and likes my work. So in my department, those are the 2 major dance icons that I've always followed. So to hear from them that they're so-called tipping their hats to me, I can just jump, I can just die tomorrow and be happy.
That's wonderful. So Indians are known to be passionate dancers, whether, it's the guy at the New Year's Eve party doing the Amitabh Bachchan or Govinda move, or Amrapalli on Superstars of Dance, winning the silver medal for her amazing Kathak performance. Why is it that we haven't seen an Indian dancer yet on So You Think You Can Dance?
Well, there's been a few who auditioned. A few of them have come out of my own company that I have here. But they never made it to the next round, as they say. And that's because, the audition process is grueling. You have to be able to, you have to wow them with your element of whatever that is. So first stage is you perform in front of the judges your piece. And if they like you, then they call you back. And then when they call you back, they throw their choreography on you. They'll throw a hip-hop routine. You got to learn that within an hour. Then you got to learn a partner ballroom number. And they'll learn that. So I think, as much as dance is a part of our culture, I think the NRIs haven't quite been able to hold a standard of being eclectic enough to hit every style. It'd be great. I would, I'd be the first one to, stand on my feet and applaud that person who makes it to that top 20 round when you're on the show. But, there have been attempts, and I applaud those people for being brave enough to do it. But I guess the caliber and the standard of what you have to be able to do, even contemporary, hasn't been there. Because mostly, what you have to understand is, here in the States, all the so-called, I'll call them kids, growing up, are exposed to American culture. So Indian parents, and I understand this 110%, they obviously want their kids to somehow find a sense of their culture, somehow, be connected to India, somehow, be brought up with some kind of cultural identity of who they are. And dance has been that main vehicle for them to do that. And, before it used to be Bharatanatyam and Kathak, and it still is, but now there's a third option, which is Bollywood. So I think a lot of Indian parents are not throwing their children into contemporary, ballet, hip-hop, jazz. They're throwing themselves into a dance style that would be familiar to them, but not only familiar, would be also a means to hold on to their cultural identity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So India also has many different dance competition shows on TV, including a show called Just Dance. You might have heard of it, where Hrithik Roshan, the star dancer in Bollywood, is the main judge. And the show features Western as well as Indian styles. What are your thoughts on the standard of Western dancing by Dancers India? Like, we see a lot of ballroom style on this show. What are your thoughts on the standard of that in India?
I think it's great. I think there's been a I have to be completely honest with you, and I'm not an avid watcher of these I guess dance shows that happen in India. I do somehow sometimes, depending on what I hear, I'll watch it online. But I think their hip-hop is fantastic. I think what they're doing is great. I think they're definitely exposing a form of dance that is very obviously known here in the States, because that's where it emerged from. It's great how dance has, been able to connect different cultures. And I do really appreciate that. The ballroom numbers, sometimes I do kind of feel, because I understand the ballrooms become pretty big in India. I think there's a little bit of technicality that is lost. I'm not a ballroom dancer. I'm not going to claim I am. I would not be able to even choreograph a ballroom dance number if you asked me to. It would become a mockery if I did. I think that sometimes the stuff that they do is a little bit not technically correct. And that's just by being exposed to having choreographer friends that are ballroom choreographers, and this is obviously people that work on So You Think You Can Dance. So I see what the product is. I see what they do. I see how they teach, because I've seen them. I see what these kids end up doing. I can only compare them, like the so-called ballroom dancers that are on So You Think You Can Dance, to what they're representing in India and some of these shows. I can say it's definitely a great attempt, absolutely. But sometimes when the remarks are made by the judges of what they should fix or what was lacking or if something was great, sometimes I don't agree, but I think that's because I'm coming from a different world. And I'm sure they would have the same opinion when they would see some of the contestants on So You Think You Can Dance here in the States do classical moves. I'm sure they feel the same way. It's not there. So I understand, and but I think it's really about sharing forms, and that's really like the bottom line, is that dance is being shared around the world now.
Right. So these days, most kids want to learn Bollywood over classical dance. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that it's important to have that classical foundation before moving on to the fusion styles?
Absolutely. I mean, I am a big believer that the root of dance, Indian dance, especially if you're a girl, I think the root of Indian Bollywood dancing is classical. Whether it's Kathak, Bharatanatyam, Odissi, jo bhi hai, I think it gives you that whole discipline, and it teaches you the foundation, the posture, lines. Bollywood does that. We do that, but we're not so. We're not so stringent on all that stuff. And then when we do end up going over something that requires perfection in lines and sharpness, it truly, believe me when I say this, it ends up being like a quick 30-minute Kathak or Bharatanatyam lesson. Because that's the root, And at my studio, we are really big enforcers of telling our students, whether they're 5 or whether they're 55, that if you really want to get better and you truly want to just outshine the person who you're dancing next to, then go take classical, do something. And, that can, and it doesn't have to be Indian. It can even be ballet, of course, it's a harder to convince the boys to go into that part of the dance world. I'm just happy just the fact that boys are even wanting to dance now. You know, it wasn't like that when I grew up, so I don't pressure the boys too much to do that.
Okay. And the final question, you're considered basically a pioneer in introducing and spreading the popularity of Indian dance, Bollywood dance in the U.S. Where do you hope to take Bollywood dancing or Indian dancing in the U.S. in the next 5 years?
Wow. I'm just, I do think long term, but I'm just really grateful on a day-to-day basis of the many people that come through our doors and the many people that call and inquire about classes. I think that right there is very, just for me, it's a huge blessing because I never thought it'd be like this. I imagine my life being someone who has a 9-to-5 job Monday through Friday in a cramped up cubicle in front of a computer, and then releasing myself on Saturday and Sunday with dance. I never thought I'd be dancing 7 days a week. So I'm truly just happy for where it is right now. I would love to take Bollywood to new heights, and I would love to, open more schools. I would love to take my dance style or whatever I can to the East Coast of the States. I'm more West Coast, but there's great stuff happening in the East Coast too. So it's just, perhaps more Bollywood exposure on a lot of these dance shows, because that seems to be like the best way to get something out, the best exposure. There's a very popular show here called Dancing with the Stars. Right. So it'd be amazing to maybe have them do something that's Bollywood. So, those are small little goals that I have. Of course, I would love to, actually come to Bollywood and do something there, but that would be something that would have to be worth my while for sure.